I got to do the amendments.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Pinellas County School Board meeting. Before we get started and do a call to order, I just wanted to make an announcement. Some have already heard and some may not have, but I serve on the R Club Board of Directors at the pleasure of this board. I'm vice chair of that board, and it saddened me to report that Art O'Hara passed away this morning. So when we're giving our thoughts and prayers for today, I would ask that you keep him, his family, his sons especially, keep them lifted up in prayer. Thank you. Do we have any amendments to the agenda, Dr. Grego?
Yes, Madam Chair and school board members, we have several amendments to the agenda, all pertaining to the filling of positions, administrative positions, and I constantly and consistently want to thank you for that flexibility that you provide us over the summertime. I'm also happy to report that each and every one of our schools that we have filled principals, and we are almost finished with the assistant principals. Will be fully complete in the middle of July, and I want to thank the board and staff for their number of hours of interviewing as we finished up last night pretty late. So here I want to recommend the following amendments to the agenda. Under the transfer 11.2, the request for personnel transfers, I'm recommending the transfer of Talisha Johnson, currently assistant principal at Westgate Elementary School, to the assistant principal at Maximo Elementary School. I'm also recommending the transfer of Amy Stewart, currently the assistant principal at Safety Harbor Elementary School, to the assistant principal at North Shore Elementary School. Under the action items 11.3 through 11.9, the following recommendations for administrative appointments I am making to this board. Stacy Mullaney, currently the classroom teacher at Palm Harbor University, to become the assistant principal at Northeast High School. 11.4, Jessica Scott, currently the classroom teacher at Meadowlawn Middle School, to the assistant principal's position at Osceola Middle School. 11.5, Katie Slifkin, currently a classroom teacher at Safety Harbor Middle School, to the position of assistant principal at Thurgood Marshall Fundamental Middle School. And the next recommendation is that of Wendy Hutkin, currently a reading coach at Dunedin High School, to the assistant principalship at Forest Lakes Elementary School. 11.7 is the approval of the administrative appointment of Denise Steele, who's currently the curriculum specialist at Campbell Park Elementary School, to the assistant principalship at Ridgecrest Elementary School. And Dawn Bingham, currently professional development specialist in our professional development department, to the administrative assistant at Pinellas Technical College, and that's the St. Petersburg campus. And finally, the request for approval of appointment of the manager of talent acquisition, recommending Rachel Cucchiera, currently employment recruitment staffing specialist in Greenville, South Carolina, to the manager of talent acquisition. This concludes the amendments to the agenda, Madam Chair.
Thank you so very much. Regarding amendments to today's agenda, I'm not going to reread all of those names, but state that I do find good cause to amend the agenda as described in detail. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda with the amendments?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 7-0. We will have our invocation this morning from Imam Abdul Karim Ali, a good friend of mine, a good friend of the communities, and he's the president of the Tampa Bay Area Muslim Association. If you could please stand so that we can have our invocation followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
The Honorable Chair, Honorable Superintendent, Honorable Board members, staff members of the community. God, peace be with you. May we pray. With God, our Lord, Creator, named the merciful benefactor, merciful Redeemer. We witness that our Lord, the Creator, is the creator of the human family, the Lord of all worlds, and the systems of knowledge. The praise and thanks belong to our Lord, and we are very thankful for those who were sent by our Creator to this earth to be an example for the human family.
Thank you, Lord.
We're very thankful for this day. We are very honored to be here. We beg for your forgiveness and we beg for your mercy. We ask you to continue to guide this honorable body and you bestow upon this body your blessing to our chair, to members of the board, to this administration, and all who work to make our school a better place, a place where our students can come to learn and one day help make the world a better place for all to live.
Yes, Lord.
We're thankful for the brave men and women and men who work to serve our city, our county, our state, the country, the world in which we live, who work to make this a better place, a safe place, and work for our freedom. And for that, we're very grateful. Now let us, as a people, work to know one another, to acknowledge one another, to work for justice, work for peace, work for love, compassion, and we all should work to make this a better world in which we all can live. In the name of the one who's known by many names, we pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. If you could remain standing, we have our national anthem that will be sung by Julia LaPierre. She was one of our Walking Rising Star winners, and we welcome her on this morning.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly gleaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Thank you so much. And again, that was Julia LaPierre. She's also a student at East Lake High School. She took first place in vocals at the Walker's Rising Star for her performance of Nat King Cole's Orange Colored Sky. Thank you so much for coming during the summer. So thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Oh. Thank you again, too, for the Imam, a good friend of mine, for delivering us with such heartfelt words on today. We have a video this morning. Throughout the month of June, Pinellas County Schools has offered 2 types of STEM camps for students entering 2nd through 9th grades in the fall. For the first time this year, students at STEM Summer Camp are learning to fly drones. 6th and 7th grade students are using sophisticated coding and computer programs to design a flight path and perform unique aerial maneuvers. Let's take a look at this new and exciting program.
6th and 7th grade STEM summer camp. And this year, we're introducing some new curriculum, which is drones. Lisa, how do you like teaching the drone curriculum?
I love it because it incorporates the coding, which so many of them have learned over the past several years, and it's the coding blocks, different terminologies, but the same concept, and the kids are just mesmerized with this. They love it. They're just big grins on their faces, watching it, wanting to try it again and again and do different things.
So for us as STEM Academy teachers and STEM summer camp teachers, how has it impacted you as an instructor?
So it's helped me see more ways that coding can be used in more like different projects and how to problem solve different situations, because this is completely different than anything we've ever done.
So instead of them just flying right off the bat, they're doing something with the computer programming piece. Can you talk about that?
So they start off by doing like a hover just to see that it works. So they hover, make sure it works, and then we take them through different lessons to learn the different block coding components. So we do a box mission, and they basically just flying in a square. And then we're adding flips, and then we add variables so they can have it do different things within that flight pattern.
Ayana, this is our first time using drones in our STEM summer camps. What has this experience been like for you?
It's really fun because I flew on a drone, but I've had bad experience doing it. So this is fun to do because you actually can program it to do stuff and you don't have to control it.
Matway, you are a STEM summer camp student. What has your excitement level been like?
It's been pretty high.
Why?
Because the drones, it's quite exciting to do for the very first time.
Now, if this is your first time flying a drone, what are some of the skills that you've learned?
You put your hand above it, it's going to go upwards because it senses like your hand is like the ground.
So when you go home every day after STEM summer camps, what are some of the things that you're sharing with your family members?
I talk to them about what I learn, and I talk to them about how much fun it is here, and I really enjoy it.
That was really nice. Now we'll have our introduction of professional and community organization representatives by Lisa M. Wolf-Chasen.
Madam Chair, members of the board, Dr. Grego and staff, it is my pleasure to introduce the following representatives of community and professional organizations. Representing the Pinellas Educational Support Professionals Association, Nellie Henyes. With the Pinellas Classroom Teachers Association, Mike Gandolfo. Representing PCTA and PESPA as the Executive Director, Joanne McCall. And with the Pinellas Arts for a Complete Education Coalition, Madeline Dunsizer. Today, there will not be a presentation from Student Rights and Responsibilities. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to our special order agenda, recognition of United Way of the Suncoast, Dr. Grego.
Yes, Madam Chair and school board members, we are so pleased to announce that each year the Commissioner of Education provides a business partner challenge to each and every school district, and Pinellas County was recognized with its partner at the United Way. Suncoast is one of the recipients of the 7 finalist top award that was received in Orlando last week. And to present this award, I'm asking Ms. Matway, Associate Superintendent of Student and Community Service, to present the information and also to thank the United Way.
Thank you. Madam Chair, school board members, Dr. Grego and staff, it is my honor to be here to recognize the partnership that we have with the United Way. On Tuesday of last week, Emery Ivory and I traveled to Orlando for the Commissioner's Business Partner of the Year event. And a beautiful event at the hotel where they were holding a conference that the Commissioner was going to be speaking at. And Emery and I kind of reminisced about the partnership that we've had, and obviously this is not Emery, but Dr. Jeffrey Johnston is joining me today, and he is the manager of our partnership at Campbell Park. So I'll talk specifically about that just a little bit, but more about the partnership. The United Way has made a commitment to the Pinellas County School District, and we know it takes great partnerships to move our district to the next level, to that A district. And United Way, Emery Ivory, and his staff had made that commitment. And that was recognized on Tuesday by the Commissioner. Only 7 districts were recognized as winners of the Commissioner's Business Partner of the Year award. So we were very excited about that. We had no idea. Normally they just take one from each district and they're recognized as a group. This was different this year. And so 7 were selected. We received a $1,000 check from the commissioner's office to be used on this partnership. So we have not decided how that's going to be spent, but we just received the check actually yesterday. We also received the Commissioner's Business Recognition Award, which I am going to present to Dr. Johnson today, as he can take that back to the United Way. Some of the things that the United Way has done, not only being a past partnership to advance school success through the Council of Educational Change, they supported 2 schools, Sandy Lane and Campbell Park Elementary. That was a 3-year grant, a $100,000 commitment at each school, which was matched by the DOE. That was to move the school in a positive direction, supporting their strategic plan, and really focused on parent and community involvement. Then they took that partnership to Campbell Park, where we built the full community school model. As you know, receiving the SIG4 grant and the commitment that the United Way has made to continue their financial support, but not only financial, but that human resource, and Jeffrey being a big piece of that, of how they committed a person to be on site to help with those partnerships. And they have made that commitment for up to 25 years. And I think that will go on beyond that, because we know that they feel that this wrapping around the entire community is essential. So I want to thank Jeffrey for being here, thank the United Way for this partnership and their commitment. And I know they're #1 in our state. And so it's wonderful that the commissioner also recognized that. Thank you.
Wonderful.
Thank you very much. Moving on to public comments. Ms. Simonetti, do we have anyone registered for
Board
public?
members and Dr. Grego, we have one speaker this morning for specific agenda items. Mark Clutho will speak to consent number 9, number 24, 27, 28, 29, 30, and 31.
Mark Lutho, Largo. Number 9, appointment of manager, talent acquisition. Oh, that's a good one. I love that. 24, Duke Energy. Again, effective and efficient use of resources. Never, ever. 27, we have these renovations, $650,000 for the dance and music classrooms. Yeah, that'll be good. And you say effective and efficient use of resources. Doubt it. And then 12 classroom additions at Cypress Woods Elementary School. Oh, yeah. $5 million. Oh. And here at Pinellas Technical College, $3,800,000. And then at the Lealman Elementary, $5,600,000. And you say you have this Tarpon Springs High School project finished. Well, what did Winston Churchill say? We shape our buildings, thereafter they shape us. So, what's the bottom line? CO2 level highest in human history. 415 parts per million. It's because you make these stupid buildings, ignoring science. You just won't get it right. You just keep on doing the same stupid thing. More to come.
Thank you. Moving on to unfinished business items, starting with the public hearing to consider the amendment to policies related to student code of. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I had a question on
Can you
number.
push your light in that way I can see when you, because if I'm not looking, I don't see you. Thank you. Go ahead.
I had a question on number 27 on a consent item. The request approval.
We're not there yet. We're not at that point yet, Joanne.
All right.
When we get to that point, I will. Unfinished business, public hearing to consider the amendments to student code of conduct policies. We've talked about these in workshop. These are second readings on today regarding tobacco and nicotine use. Dr. Grego?
Yes, Madam Chair, you're absolutely right. This is second reading. I'm going to ask Ms. Bell to just briefly reference and remind the board and the public of what these hearings are about. So, Ms. Bell?
Good morning, board members, staff, and community. Today, on the first unfinished business item, it has a series of policies around tobacco and nicotine. The ones in this first agenda item are specific to ones that are not in the student code of conduct that Mr. Ward Kennedy will speak to next. But they are aligned to the agenda item number 3 for that. So what is it within these policies? So 1215, 3215, 4215, 5501.06, and 7434. Adds language around vaping devices. It also defines what would constitute possession and what is a lighted device within one of our buildings. These first came to the board for workshop in April with first reading on May 14th. There have been no changes throughout this process and no suggested changes. And so for that, we bring them to you today for vote.
We accept superintendent's recommendation.
Do we have a second for purposes of discussion because Dr. Carr pushed her light? It's been seconded for purposes of discussion. Dr. Carr?
I just want to express thank yous to those individuals who worked so hard on this item. It's become such a prevalent issue throughout our schools, and the fact that we've adjusted our Code of Student Conduct and policy items to address it and give direct guidance to our administrators in school as well as families on the importance of this issue it just is very near and dear to me because I see it really becoming a problem in our middle and high schools, and that we have brought it to the forefront to really help educate families on how critical it is for us to look at vaping and see it as a problem. And it's not like chewing gum. It's a serious issue. So I just want to express thank you to you and others I know who work so hard on adjusting and the wording so it's clear and there's not misperception or misunderstanding of what the consequences are for engaging in vaping at school.
Any other comments by board members?
I have a question. Pertaining to the tobacco and nicotine use of vaping, what parameters are going to be limited from the schools? Middle school, high school? Are there any areas that we don't allow vaping or we do allow vaping? Where is the issue on that?
We don't.
I'll let Mr. Koperski take that one.
Yes, Madam Chair, if you don't mind.
Sure.
This policy applies to all of your schools, all levels, and so use of tobacco, nicotine, vaping is not allowed on any school board property.
And
period.
Elementary as well?
That's correct.
Okay, elementary, middle, and high school?
That's correct.
Okay.
And
Thank
adult
you.
centers.
All right.
As
Thank
well
you.
as the technical colleges. Any other questions? No speakers? Do we have a motion with a second? Do we have a motion?
Had one already.
Do we have a motion with a second? Yes. Oh, I'm sorry. All right. Jesus, that's right, for purposes of discussion. Y'all gotta work with me today. I'm not all here, but I'm here. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0. If you could please push your lights, because that way I can see who wants to speak, and that way I can call on you so that you can have your full time. That'll really help me out. Public hearing to consider the amendment to policy 2460, which is exceptional student education. Dr. Grego?
Yes, Madam Chair, and Ms. Dull and Lynn Mowat are here to answer any questions, but Ms. Dull, if you could provide just a quick overview of this policy.
Sure. This is a policy that comes to you every year, following back and forth with the state. It actually starts every fall with our ESE department working with the Florida Department of Education's ESE department to update and revise within legislative statutes and within the data from the previous year. So this process actually started last fall. We got it back from the DOE as approved in springtime, and then in April brought it to you for workshop, in May May 14th for first reading. The updates are within there. Many of the updates are around the data and then around the procedures. This is the second reading. There has been no changes throughout the process.
Do we have a motion with a second?
Motion.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Are there any that oppose? Motion carries 7-0. Public hearing to consider the amendment to policies in the Student Code of Conduct regarding attendance and several other items. Dr. Grego.
Yes, Madam Chair and school board members, this is a policy that this board spent several times examining, not only through workshops, but through your own time away, and brought several pieces of input back to Mr. Kennedy. Mr. Kennedy's working with committees of parents, students, teachers, administrators in developing our 2019-2020 student code of student conduct. So, Mr. Kennedy, this is also the second reading too, with no changes.
Good morning, everyone. As noted, this is the second reading. There have been no changes from the initial reading. As a district, we're always looking for ways to provide a better understanding of our policies for students, staff, and families. The suggested changes this year better defines the language used in current policy. The Code of Conduct Committee recommendations discussed previously and presented for board approval this morning are in the areas of student makeup work for absences, tobacco and nicotine, as Ms. Dull already shared, drug paraphernalia, and general discipline. We believe these changes and these recommendations will help our stakeholders gain a better understanding of expectations and those policies.
Any questions or comments? A motion and a second is carried. Any questions?
I have a question.
Lentino.
On the last sentence, it says the new ESE and SP&P will be in effect through the end of the 2018-19 school year unless additional legislative changes are enacted with an earlier effective date. So would we be receiving any notification of that? 18-19?
Is this?
Madam Chair, if I can respond to that, please. Yeah, you're referencing the prior policy,
Right.
but yes, with the ESE, SP&P, any notifications come from either the federal or the State Department of Education to us. If we need to make mid-year changes, they will come back to you because they are part of your policy.
Okay, and how would that change the policy?
Well, the SP&P is a very large document to which a link is located in your agenda item,
Right.
and it would be in one of those 100-plus pages would need to be changed,
Okay.
if that is needed.
All right.
It has
Okay.
not been needed in years past to change it mid-year.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
We have a motion with a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you.
And then
Thank you,
the
Mr.
last item in this section, public hearing to consider the amendment to the policy related to equal access for clubs and sponsored.
Yes, Madam Chair, I'm going to ask Mr. Koperski to represent this item as he's done in the prior board workshop.
Yes, Madam Chair, board members, this policy is updating the Equal Access Act policy. This is a federal law that gives certain student clubs that may not be school-sponsored, but they still want to meet and are organized by students and want to meet on school grounds, gives them access to free use of our facilities. And we just needed to update a couple of areas, including clarifying that those clubs can meet at the same times as school-sponsored clubs, which might include over lunch or before school.
I also just want to point out too, it does state that staff can be a sponsor, but that would be a non-paid sponsorship of a club or activity. And they would have to follow the same guidelines, rules, and regulations for our clubs that are school-sponsored, so.
That is correct. And those employees act primarily as a supervisor of these. They are not the leader of the club.
Exactly.
Well, I would have a question about this. What specifically would this entail? Would there be a religious component? Would there be some other component that would affect a rental of a school facility?
Yeah, but these relate to, this policy relates to the students who want to meet. It's not necessarily a church or a synagogue or a mosque that wants to rent our facility to conduct a service on a Saturday or Sunday.
Right.
This is a student group, but you're exactly correct. It may not be school-sponsored because the student group is religious.
Right.
In fact, the Equal Access Act was enacted by Congress in the 1980s because of a Bible club that was refused to be granted access to a classroom after school hours.
Church from state, right.
That's correct.
Right.
That's why it's non-school sponsored, but they still have the right to meet on our school facilities. It's more of an anti-discrimination provision, so we're not discriminating against those groups. We're just granting them equal access to our facilities.
Okay. We'll be watchful of that.
We have a motion.
Move approval.
Do we have a second? We have a motion with a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Do we have any that are opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Now moving to our consent agenda item. This is the place, School Board Member Lentino, if you would like to request to pull something, to have a discussion on it. This is the time that you can do that.
Yeah, on the regular school board meeting agenda, request approval of the agreement with
Ms. Lentino, you have to request to pull the item. You
Okay.
can't just go in and talk about the item. So if you want to request to pull any consent agenda item from consent agenda so that we can discuss it, you just need to give us the
Okay.
item you want pulled.
I will pull 27.
Okay, so there's a request to pull item number 27. I'm already spoke to Dr. Grego and Dr. Corbett earlier. I'm pulling 17 and 18 for information to the public only, not because there's anything wrong with those items, just so that the public will hear about what it is that we're doing. So that would be items 17, 18, and 27 to be pulled from the consent agenda.
Okay, I just had one question.
Ms. Lentino, you have to wait, please. We have to vote on the consent agenda, and then we go back and individually discuss the items that are pulled. That's the
All right.
process. That's always been the process. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda minus the items that have been pulled for discussion? Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. You have, I'm sorry, Ms. Kane. Please forgive me.
I would also like to pull item number 27, and it was, do you want me the specific bid number?
No,
Just the
because
item.
27's already been pulled.
Okay, but I had something within that.
Okay, so we'll add you to that.
Excuse me, I think you're looking at the bids amended. I think this is what you're looking at.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry, it would be item number 34 then on the new
34?
agenda.
Okay. So I need to amend that motion with the second, so it's 17, 18, 27, and 34. Okay. To amend. Okay.
Amended
Is it-
I think I did the second.
Okay.
Whoever did the second.
Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
None, any opposed? Okay, so may we have a motion to approve the consent agenda items minus 17, 18, 27, and 34? Motion? Second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Now, moving on to item numbers 17, then 18, then 27, then 34. Again, I just ask that these items be pulled for information to the public. They both deal with some potential opportunities that we will have to really assist our students as well as our teachers in professional development and making sure that students are immersed in gifted components, even though they're not in gifted programs.
Right.
And then what we're doing to really bolster our Title I programs, which are programs that really help, especially our struggling readers. So I thought it would be nice and appropriate that that information could be shared, so whoever's here and whoever may be listening later can hear what it is that the district is doing on top of what we already have in place. Thank you so much for coming today.
Of course. Madam Chairperson, board members, Dr. Grego, and staff, we have recently applied for, we're asking for consent to apply for the Dravitz Grant. As you know, in an effort to increase the number of students identified as gifted from underrepresented groups and in support of national research, we and PCS utilize both universal screening and alternative identification criteria, which you have previously approved. Our gifted population is growing and changing with these initiatives, and we've seen an increase in every one of our underrepresented groups with regards to gifted eligibility and gifted enrollment. As we continue this important work, our attention is now moving to ensuring that we are providing equity in our services for our changing gifted and talented population. Project E3, Expanding Equity and Engagement, seeks to significantly improve the provision of services for our gifted and talented students, promote STEM education, and improve effective instruction in classrooms. We're seeking innovative ways to better meet the needs of all of our gifted and talented students while benefiting all of our students, especially our newly identified underrepresented groups. The project we have in mind has 3 separate project components. Component 1 is a district-wide implementation of a total school cluster grouping model, which is Dr. Gentry's work out of Vanderbilt. That'll include professional development with training centered on best practices in gifted education and using gifted pedagogy, really working with our teachers to help them differentiate for gifted and talented students. That is going to help us continue the work that we already have planned for this year. Component 2 is to revamp our current talent development programs, which in all 57 of all of our Title I schools have a talent development program as well. We want to revamp the talent development programs to focus on STEM, specifically computer science, to ensure that we are having meaningful services for our students who the universal screening is identified as talented, but don't necessarily meet the Florida eligibility requirements for gifted. And then component 3, we want to establish a high-quality summer enrichment camp for gifted and talented students. And this project would complement Dr. Karak's ELL enrichment camp that we've been working on these last few years. So Project E3 is centered on best practices in gifted education. It complements our current pull-out gifted model by using the guiding pedagogy of Dr. Marcia Gentry's total school cluster grouping and Dr. Joseph Renzulli's school-wide enrichment model so that we can serve our gifted and talented students in ways that research has proven to benefit all students.
Thank you. And again, I just wanted that information shared because we do have an increased number of students who typically are not placed in gifted programs that are in fact testing gifted above and beyond. And then we have students who barely miss the gifted number. Right. So in order for them to even receive those additional supports, it's wonderful that the teachers can then be acclimated to be able to teach that throughout their curriculum. So I just thought this was really good for the community to hear what we're trying to do to help all students across the board. So thank you so very much. I appreciate it.
Madam Chair, I also think it's important in the community to realize that as a board and as a staff, we're going after these dollars. This is a highly competitive grant arrangement, and we're moving in so many different directions, but when you're able to get some of these seed dollars, you're able to accelerate that progress. And certainly, as Ms. Marsh has stated, we have more students in our gifted services program, more underrepresented students, and that's our target. And I appreciate the effort. A lot of these grants have a quick 30-day turnaround, unless you're willing to drop everything else and do double duty, which we did. And I want to thank you and our grants department for doing that. If you don't line up, you never know whether you're going to win. So we will certainly communicate our success or wherever, but we're going to continue this process in progress no matter what. But we're excited about the possibilities of being recognized by such a prestigious grant. So thank you, Ms. Marsh, for your
Are there any other
efforts.
comments or questions by board members? So do we have a motion with a second on this particular item, item 17?
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
On 27.
We're not there yet, Joanne. We're getting there. We have to take each item that's been pulled.
We have to vote on 17.
We're going to vote on 17, we'll do 18, we'll do 27, and then we'll do 34. Do we have a motion with a second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item number 18.
Good. Mr. Hendrick?
Morning, board members, Dr. Grego and staff in the community. We're happy to bring forward this item on our Title II Part A Supporting Effective Instruction Grant. Unlike the previous grant that Ms. Marsh spoke about, this is not a competitive grant, but part of the Every Student Succeeds Act. We annually receive some part of Title II dollars. The goal of these funds are to, quite simply, improve student achievement by creating a better supply and development of our teachers. And annually, we examine the source of these funds and how to best spend them to support our teachers to improve instruction in all of our classrooms. Over the course of the last several years, we've changed how these funds are spent. We don't just roll over positions or programs from one year to the next. We annually analyze them with student data as well as teacher feedback to see the best way to spend these dollars. This year, we're proposing to spend them on staff developers to support math and science instruction across all of our schools, grades K to 12, to support early learning through staff developer and support for that, as well as staff development support in our professional development department. In addition to this, these funds, 3 years ago, we began hiring our first equity trainer, and last year we decided, based on the support and feedback from teachers, to hire 2 additional equity trainers. We now have 3, and all of our training comes from this particular grant. We also use these funds for programs like Embrace Pinellas, recruitment and retention bonuses at Transformation Zone schools, as well as other professional development for teachers and staff. Annually, this grant comes from the federal government. We submit our application with your support today, and then those dollars come back to the district in support of student achievement.
That information shared because it does tie into the additional compensation that we provide those teachers at some of our more challenging schools. But it also, again, shows that we're really trying to push the envelope when it comes to enhancing our reading scores with our students and whatnot. So I just wanted that information shared as well about what it is that we are doing so that people in the community and individuals that are here today can see that we are taking it very seriously when we say that we want to make sure all students are reading at or above grade level. So thank you. There's a motion for approval. Is there a second? Second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Are there any that oppose? Motion carries 7-0. Item number 27, Ms. Lentino.
Thank you. I have a question about the flooring of the Sandy Lane Elementary Schools and also the other classroom schools that has an estimated project cost of $650,000. Are any of those schools going to be on cement, or are any of those schools going to be elevated by having a brief space in between the wood and the cement? Do we have any information about that?
Yeah, there's only one school, it's Sandy Lane, but there could be a possibility of up to, I think we're designing 3 or 4 classrooms. The floors themselves, it's going to be a mixture of music rooms and dance studios. So the music rooms will not have any special floor. They can be a floor just like you have in front of you here.
Right.
But those music rooms will be enhanced with sound acoustical properties, so that they can, you won't have as much reverb and
Right,
and
so
other noises
there'll
in
be
there.
some,
But the music rooms will just have a typical normal floor. The dance studio themselves,
Right.
There's a temporary floor in there now,
Right.
so that they could get the program started.
Good.
It's not to the quality that we would like, so the new dance floor, though, will have a floating wood floor. It'll be a dance studio quality,
Right.
just like they have at Perkins, and just like we have at some of our
Right, at
high school
Perkins.
dance studios.
Right. Okay, good. Thanks very much.
Are there any other questions related to item number 27? Do we have a motion to approve? A motion?
Approval of items 27.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0. And item number 34, Ms. Kane.
Thank you so much. What I was pulling originally, bid number 19961, it's on packet page 246. It just came to my attention that this is part of the federal grant funds for the Transformation Zone schools. And I've questioned some of these purchases more than once because when they come through our docket, they're affecting, sometimes less than 20 people, and the dollar amounts are like this one, $142,000, and it's only affecting, I think, up to 18 to 50 people. And so it's just like this particular item is not affecting enough people to necessarily be worth the dollar amount.
Okay.
And we've had 3 or 4 of these lately that we continue to approve, and I just feel like I want to be sure we're spending our money where it needs to be spent.
Dr. Grego?
Thank you. Good morning. Yes, so our goal is to build the capacity in our instructional leaders, our lead teachers and coaches, and they are to bring their learning back and empower our teachers. Therefore, they will be empowering our scholars in order for us to receive the desired results. What we are doing is deepening their knowledge with equity, standard-based instruction, and as well as our leaders being able to build the capacity in our teachers. In order to, this year we did a lot of focus on growing our scholars. With the new SLA, we got to focus more on making sure our scholars are moving to proficiency. In order to do that, we're going to have to be a highly effective instructional leadership teams in our schools in order for that to happen. And not, I agree with you, not just a few people, but these are our most highly effective individuals that know how to transfer their learning to other teachers, and that is our goal.
Do we have a way to document this to show that it's working? I mean, I'm for it if we know it's working, but is there a way to track that, a way to be sure that what we're investing in is giving us a return with our students specifically?
Yes, we will have to look at, based at the data, our student outcome. Also, I would say that would be the #1 way to track it, is student outcome.
Okay.
I want to make sure she finished.
Yeah.
Okay. Dr. Carr?
I also had a question about this item prior to our meeting. We typically submit written questions, and I think we had some response to this. I agree with Ms. Kane. We have seen a number of items come up, and while I think there was explanation in the question, in the response to our question about how each item was being used, I think the linkage to the overall plan might need to be further articulated to us as a board so we don't keep asking specifically about TZ zone schools and their funding, because inherently, if we're trying to improve the transitional zone schools, we're going to invest a larger dollar amount. You know, these are schools with greater need, so we may have to invest a greater amount of money. However, I think we're not making enough of a connection when we evaluate the outcomes of each of these individual interventions or supports. So I think we may need, or I know I need as a board member, further, and I can't speak for everyone on our board, further connection to how the professional development was implemented and how specifically that professional development affected student outcome. And while I know when we evaluate professional development, we have to look at how it was implemented, how many people were engaged in it, but we also need to have explicit expected outcomes directly related to student achievement. So I think we may not be seeing enough evidence of implementation, evaluation of some of the professional development being implemented at some of our transformational zone schools. And while I know you're new, I think that might be something we're grappling with, because if you see, we keep asking these questions as a board, or several of us have asked questions specifically on some of these items, because there are so many interventions going into the schools, and we want to make sure that they're aligned and that we're evaluating them and that they're really working, because it's a lot of money to go to a small number of individuals for their professional development. And we don't always retain them in the building. And so then, those are all important factors that we need to consider when we're making this large investment, because we don't want to be guilty of just doing something to say we're doing something, even if it's not working. So I think what I know I'm struggling with when I continue to ask questions of these large dollar items for professional development is I'm struggling because I'm not seeing enough of an evaluation of the implementation. And it may exist, but I'm not seeing it. I haven't seen it. And that's what I need, more evidence before I can continue to approve these sort of items. And I know they were in the grant. I've read the grant. I see the objective of them. But now we need to see the evaluation of them.
Yes, and thank you. This year, we had our retention in the transformation zone for as teachers. We had more teachers to be retained in the transformation zone because we have the ongoing embedded in opportunities for professional development and providing them with the resources being funded by the UNICEF funds. All the professional development that we are offering our teachers and leaders is aligned to their school improvement plan. If you this Thursday, we'll be working on the upcoming school year, but everything that we're doing, we have sustained, we have kept our focus this school year and have been around all the professional development that has been provided this school year.
Dr. Grego has his
And if I may, I think one of the things, as you mentioned, Dr. Carr, is that these proposals were put together probably close to a year ago with a lot of details, and what we could do is further connect the evaluation. We're looking at the outcome measures of these 9 schools that you see here. That's a tremendous impact and each one of these schools are either a D or an F, as graded by the state. And so we're trying to, as you said, and I totally agree, some of these schools in particular need greater resources, greater impact in terms of the direct onboarding and also staff development training at the school site. When you drive that training at the school site, you also drive the cost up, but you're trying to make a distinct improvement at a school, whether it be Fairmont Park or Campbell Park or Meadowlawn and so forth. I don't need to list them all. We will make a better effort to maybe go back to the original and try to make greater connections between the work and not only the intended outcome, but the real outcome of the students' work. Some of those outcomes, as fortunate and unfortunate, are measured, and the perception is it's all about a state assessment. And so I know, and you know, that there's greater learning going on than that one test in one day. But that tends to be the accountability system right now. That is the issue in our state. So they are charging us. These grants have gone through great scrutiny by the Department of Education and the turnaround office in the Department of Education for months, and so the evaluation. So let us do a better job of connecting that evaluation piece to the actual expenditures.
Yeah, I believe that Mr. Herbick explained exactly what the flooring is going to be doing in the Sandy Lane Elementary School. We will make a better investment with that school over time, conducting 18, 20 children that will gain value in the flooring of what we have instilled in that classroom. We need to have a certain amount of give in the wooden floor, because over time, that flooring is going to be a stellar floor. We don't want to rip it out in 10 years, 20 years. We want to have a good flooring for our children to have repetitive, continuous work on that floor. If it's jumping around, if it's sitting down, if it's whatever we're doing, we want to have the best investment in our value that you have explained. And I think I'm very satisfied with that.
Okay, Ms. Carr, if you want to ask your question.
Okay. Thank you for expressing more and providing more information about how this came to pass. I guess my concern also lies with not only the low number of individuals who are impacted by the professional development. I don't disagree the value of professional development and the need to provide additional professional development, but sometimes, and if we are moving forward, going to look at evaluating who we're opting to work with, who we're contracting with, because most of these companies that we're contracting with externally to provide professional development are for-profit agencies that we do sometimes have the resources internally to provide some of those opportunities. So not only do we want to make sure that there's alignment, but I think we want to also make sure that we've provided good evidence, and while I know some grants require it, that we've provided good evidence of the fact that there are not folks who have that internal expertise to provide that to us. So for example, are there not other lead administrators who could provide professional development? And I know we do some of this, but I just don't want us to be wasteful or not utilize our internal resources when we can take care of our own internally rather than providing monies to external agents who, you know, are for-profit agents. So I think that's one thing we need to be very cognizant of as we move forward in providing evidence of why we're doing what we're doing.
I agree with you, and that's the reason why we have several of our principals that have participated in this professional development will be presenting this upcoming school year to other leaders and teachers. And we are hoping for the upcoming school year that next year we will have our own Standards Institute, because we have deepened their knowledge in order to be able to execute our own Pinellas County Standards Institute and transformational leaders.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We have a responsibility, a fiduciary responsibility to the to the taxpayers. We all want the best for our kids and make everything available that we can to make them to be successful. And I think the issue here is getting the most bang for your buck, to put it in kind of layman terms. I understand that it requires expertise and so forth, but I personally, and I'm like Dr. Carr and Ms. Kane, I'm having a hard time wrestling with this. I don't want to be a naysayer, but I would like some assurance of we are going to track the money, how it's spent, and the end result. And if I could be assured that we will do that, we may start off with low numbers, you know, it may increase and do all that stuff, but I would like to be assured somehow that that we're going to closely scrutinize the funding and what we're getting out of it. Is it really worth it? And I'm right now on the edge, but I'm leaning toward, I understand during our conversation we had when I met with you some time ago, I understand there's a great need and we need to do what we need to do. So I would just like to make sure that because of that fiduciary responsibility, that's pretty awesome. The people have entrusted us to do and spend our money wisely, and I take that very seriously, as I'm sure most of us do. Throwing money at a problem or at a situation doesn't always cure it. It's how it's spent. That's kind of my mantra, and I appreciate the effort and all you're doing. And I would just like to down the road, make sure that we're going to get some type of assurance that it's being spent and it's going to be spent wisely. Thank you.
School Board Member Carol Cook and then Dr. President.
Yeah, I understand what each of the board members are saying, and maybe after we look at our strategic planning this afternoon, we'll get a little better idea of how it works. But if we had the ability, the skills, and the knowledge within Pinellas County, we would be using it. The skills, the knowledge, and the understanding that we have, we are using. But we weren't getting the growth that was necessary and required, that we were demanding of the schools and of our students. So if we're looking at our school improvement plan and how it ties in with the strategic direction and what we're going to do to reach those goals, these are the kinds of things we have to do. We have to train our staff with additional skills, with additional knowledge, with additional tools, and then bring that in. And I think part of what we see is our outcomes in our strategic plan as to whether or not we're being effective. So I don't know if we want to get into every single grant, every single training, every single issue. That's a discussion for another time. But I strongly support this kind of training that goes on, because you get a certain number of people that do it, as we're saying, around 20. They bring it back, and it multiplies and multiplies and multiplies throughout the district, so that more and more people are gaining the skills. When we look at how many teachers we had that were leaving these schools and that are now staying, I think it's because we have equipped them with the ability to see success. People want to stay where they're seeing success. So I'm going to support this, and then at another time, if we want to talk about what additional information or training, additional accountability we want, that's fine, but I'm going to support this at this time because we have seen success. And hopefully we will continue to see that success.
Ms. Kane?
Thank you very much for bringing the additional
Press your mic, baby.
Wow, no. Thank you very much for bringing the additional information forward at this time, because this was discussed by the previous board. I'm going to support the professional development, but in future, what I'm hearing so much about from this conversation is about the teachers and this, but we're not seeing direct correlation to students. I want to see how this affects our students, because that's who we're responsible for. We're responsible for their education, and we're responsible also to the taxpayer dollar. And over the last 6 months, we've put in over $500,000 or more in professional development in these schools, in this transformation zone requests, with different forms of professional development. And the fact that we don't have a graph or a direct correlation to student performance, to me, is a little bit irresponsible of us to continue to approve financial obligation in that regard without a very clear, direct standard and a direct correlation. So as for now, because this was something that I know was done a year in advance, I'm going to say yes, but in future, if we're not directly relating to students, then I feel like we are not being responsible with our funds and with what we are here to do. So I thank you so very much for bringing this forward, and I really do appreciate all the work that you all are doing in the zone schools. I know this is a very difficult job, and it's a very difficult thing to do. I just think that as we move forward, we've got to continue to be fresh and creative with how we attack this problem. So thank you.
Excellent points. Excellent points.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
only if other board members are finished.
I don't have any other lights. Yours was there, and then you took it away, but you're back.
A couple of things. One is, I think there's a larger discussion here. Item 18, you approved for instructional staff development of over $3.5 million. And the same discussion could be had for that. The reality of it is that our staff does a lot of in and out of training of our teachers. The number one factor why teachers are retained in the most struggling schools is the embedded professional development. I can assure you, Mr. Dudley, and to the rest of the board, there are no schools executive directors, by monthly walkthroughs by the Department of Education that's scrutinized. So if there's a level of scrutiny, let me assure you that that level of scrutiny is happening with these schools. If we want to develop a system that broadens that level of scrutiny to each and every dollar spent in professional development, we certainly can do that. It's just a different mantra. And because it's just ironic that Title II is also of the same thing of $3.5 million, but we approve that without a question. I shouldn't say without a question, but perhaps without the same level. These dollars are being scrutinized by multiple people, and we do, not to repeat myself, but I will, is that we need to do a better job, perhaps, because they have such attention to them, because they're separate, that we will bring back the connection between the results of what we're looking at. But I can tell you and suggest strongly that if retention is one of those results, we've hit the ball out of the park. As we see through our MAP assessments, we continue to see each and every one of our schools continue to make the progress. We're hitting that home run also. So unfortunately, because everything's based on a single test, we'll see that at the end of this week, but we also saw that even in our third grade results. We're seeing tremendous results in our transformation zone as well as the rest of our school district. So we're seeing the progress of the importance of professional development. If what we're not doing is connecting enough to the student outcomes, we'll make that further connection with you. But I would implore you to, specific to this, I will say without any reservation, there are no schools in the state that are being more highly scrutinized than, and not only in Pinellas County, by the way. If you want to take a look at the state board meeting this past month, the schools that were looked at in Duval County were examined and were questioned. So this is the world we live in. These are the rules, and we're gonna win. We're gonna ensure that our students are achieving at a higher level, and we need to be connected with that journey. So thank you very much.
Thank you. And thank you, everybody, for your comments, because that was a really good discussion. And I think are on point. But hopefully going forward, when we're having our workshops on these items, then maybe there can be, Dr. Grego, that tie to the strategic plan or to the Bridging the Gap plan, so that it's, when we have the presentation about we're applying for this, and this is how it correlates to XYZ, and then that'll be provide at least additional information that you can utilize to make your determination. But very good questions, thank you. And very good conversation on everyone's behalf. So item number 34, do we have a motion with a second? There's a motion, is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Do we have any opposed?
Nay.
So we have a 6-1. Thank you. All right, thank you all very much. Moving on to non-consent. Do we have any non-consent?
No.
I don't have anything. All right. Going on to new business, that'll be items introduced by the superintendent.
Yes, Madam Chair and school board members, I do want to thank all those involved, and especially Ms. Kane, who was able to attend the Governor DeSantis's visit and Commissioner Corcoran's visit to Ridgecrest Elementary School last week. To me, it put a light on what we're doing, as you saw the video earlier, on STEM and our summer camps. By the way, those drones are designed for indoor. If you were questioning, those are indoor drones, so we were not placing anyone in harm's way. But especially thanks to Laura Spence, who on a very quick timeline, you know, we receive these words from the governor's office, the plans change and they constantly change, but Laura was able to put together, and that was the first day of the Monday of Ridgecrest. You know, it was at East Lake, and we traveled throughout the county, but the governor was extremely impressed, as was the commissioner, as he announced that $10 million to continue to train teachers and to recruit them and to keep them in computer programming and to get more and more teachers certified and getting them up to speed. So it's his investment in what we're talking about with STEM. Also want to recognize, my report will be short because I know we have a full day of board workshops, but we had 4 students and their art teachers who were honored at the Scholastic Art and Writing Awards National Ceremony, and this was at Carnegie Hall this past June 6th. And I want to recognize Molly Carson, Alexia Introvich, and the Pinellas County Center of the Arts at Gibbs High School, Aaliyah Jackson of Osceola High School, and Robert Elliott of Tyrone Middle School. Their artwork was on display at Parsons New School and the Pratt Art School in New York City. And the Scholastic Art and Writing Award is the nation's longest running and most prestigious recognition program for creative teens in grades 7 through 12. And I say that as many of you know, Sue Castleman, this will be her last week of work here, so I usually don't recognize people, but I can hardly contain myself to tie the awards and all that she's done for our school community. She assures me, I don't think she's here, but she assures me that she will stay in touch with our school district. But just a big thank you to not only this event, but many, many other recognitions in the world of arts that our students have received. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Items introduced by School Board Attorney, do you have any?
I have none today, thank you.
No. Items introduced by the board. I just have a couple of very brief things. The first is, it was on our consent agenda where we approved the partnership with the independent electrical contractors for our technical college, and I just think that's absolutely wonderful. Those apprenticeships mean so much to the students that are graduating from our programs, but they also mean additional pay for them when they fall into apprenticeship status. So I just wanted to say I was very excited to see that and that we did approve that. I want to thank everyone for attending the Master Board training. I had a really good time. All of us seemed to have a really good time. We did miss Miss Lentino, but I think Carol brought back a number of items that they passed out to make sure that you had them. And Mr. Dudley, when you left, Carol made sure she collected things for you. So Carol will be... They have them, thank you. So Carol will be getting with us about our follow-up dates for our individual Master Board component pieces. But thank you all very much. I think we all had a good time, Hillsborough and Pasco County. I think all of us had a good time, so I'm appreciative of that. I also want to say I was excited to see where we hired a number of new officers, Chief Williams and Mr. Clint Herbig for our campuses, making sure that things are moving forward. So thank you all so very much for that. We talked about, and I'm just bringing this up only because I get to sign off on all these orders and money. My hand shakes sometimes when I see the dollar amount. But I think we talked once, like early on, about the vehicles that we have. Because I know the conversation came up about how much money the sheriff office wanted, and that included like the cost of vehicles and all that stuff and upgrading them. So I wanted to see maybe if we could talk about or bring that subject up again about what we're doing for our vehicles, making sure that our team members have whatever they need, because now they're acting in a more advanced capacity than before. So maybe if we could talk about that, that would be great. And then I know I talked with Mr. Clint Herbig before about some of our contractors and the work that they're doing. I had a conversation with Dr. Grego and Dr. Corbett about it, as well as Clint Herbig, just about it seems like some of our contractors are rushing to get the work done and maybe not doing their best job. And as a result of that, it pushes our construction dates further out, because they're having to go back and clean up those punch lists. And then it makes the move-in date for our students pushed out. We got to scramble at the beginning of the year, figure out what we're going to do and all of that stuff. So maybe if we could, just maybe have that conversation as well. And I'm talking about that because in here was just a number of items that I'll be signing. Persons were asking for a substantial, asking for payment based on substantial completion. And I know Ann will tell you, I read all that stuff. I read them. I'll be like, what's this? So I just want to make sure. And I know our team is doing a good job, but we shouldn't have to do the amount of extra work that we're doing to make sure that the contractors are doing what they are getting paid to do. And we want to make sure these buildings are around, for a while. We had to go out and borrow this money. And so if we could maybe have that conversation as well, and I do appreciate Dr. Grego and Dr. Corbett and Dr. Hervick speaking to me on those items. I'm hearing really good things about Summer Bridge, the participation there, the field trips the kids get to go on, integrating that piece. So while we have our STEM clubs and things of that nature, we also, those students get a chance to have some little fun time as well. So thank you so very much for that. And then I'll give a special shout out to Mr. Clint Hervick. I received a call from a police officer, Miss Tanya Blackshear, about some of the youth who she felt like were missing meals and things like that. And I guess last year we were delivering meals. Something may have happened. No, something did happen. It was the apartment management. It wasn't us. The apartment management wanted to cease that delivery of meals for the students at that low income housing community. So police officer Tanya Blackshear contacted me. I contacted Mr. Clint Hervick and gave him the information, and we're going to see about making sure that we can start back providing meals to those students at that apartment complex, so at least we know they're getting a hot lunch. So I just want to give a shout out to Mr. Clint Hervick and his staff for being so responsive, because during the school year they get a breakfast and lunch with us, but during the summer they may not get either one of those. So I just want to thank you and your staff for looking out for our students for that, because they are our students when they come back. The only other thing I didn't say is that I will be working with the board of directors and office staff to plan a memorial for Mr. Art O'Hara. So please stay tuned. I will make sure I get that information to Ann. We do know where it will be. It will be at my church at Greater Mount Zion AME. I'm just trying to work with the family, work with the office staff, and make sure that we're doing it at a time when persons can come, because he was loved by so many people. And we have the 4th of July holiday coming up, and some important people to Art will be coming in from out of the country. Judge Sullivan's in Normandy. We need her to get back, and his significant other, Ginger, is in London, and we need for her to get back. So I will make sure everyone is aware of those dates, and hopefully your calendar will be clear enough to come and pay your respects. I see Ms. Long, Dudley, and Kane. We'll go in that order.
I just have a request for a school board workshop. I'd like to, I talked to Mr. Lentino this morning. I'd like us to have a discussion of the things we have in place. There was 3 other cyber attacks over the weekend on large companies. And when you think about Pinellas County and the employees and the students, the information we have in our computer system, I just want to make sure we're doing everything to protect as all of us, and see what's in place.
Pleasure of the board. We could certainly do that.
I think it's important. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. 2 items that I have. One is I have a longtime colleague, and he's been a teacher and an administrator in Pinellas County Schools, who passed away here about 2 weeks ago. And I attended his funeral, and the outpouring. Now, those of us who live in St. Petersburg knew Herb Dixon. And Herb was an absolutely terrific guy, and he lived 87 years, and he was just fine human being. And he passed away, and I just want to acknowledge that the outpouring, the place was packed, the wake and also his funeral. And those of us who've been around a long time knew Herb. And but anyway, I want to bring that up. And the second is there's a administrator who, this is going to end on a good note here, administrator in Pinellas County named Jim Joyer. And Jim is adult ed principal up in Clearwater. And 2 weeks ago, I ran into him, and he was so proud. His chest Jim Joyer is 6'7", and his chest was thumped out, and I mean, he was feeling great. And he went up to his son's graduation at West Point, and I think there's a picture we're going to throw on. And Jim Joyer Jr., his dad is 6'7", and his son is 6'9", and he played on the West Point basketball team. And I wanted to give him a shout out and say congratulations, and should be proud. His son's going to be in the military for a while, and but anyway, that's kind of a good thing. And he's still active. Jim is still active in the Pinellas County school system, and I just want to give him. I just felt like doing that. Thank you.
Ms. Kane?
Thank you all so much. And I want to give my condolences to both of you for the loss over this past month. And also want to say we'll miss Ms. Castleman as she leaves us. This is going to be a big parting. As far as arts, I know I had mentioned this months ago, but just in case, I wanted everyone to hear it from me. I won the Freddie G. Gershwin Arts Leadership Award in January, and in 2 weeks I'll be flying to New York. I'm going to be attending 6 master classes in theater directorialship with some of the greatest in Broadway. Be touring the backstage of The Prom, which is playing on Broadway now, and I can't reveal the names of the masterclass teachers, but they're going to be some pretty amazing people, so I'm very excited. In case this ends up in the paper or something, I wanted you to know from me first, but because I can't say who's going to be there yet. I'm under secrecy, but it's going to be really awesome, and hopefully we'll be bringing back a lot of fantastic information for our district and for our arts community here in Pinellas.
Congratulate. Take some pictures, please,
Oh, yeah.
and send them back to us so we can put it up. And I'll pay you a Snicker bar if you give us one name. She loves candy, so I figured I'd pay her a Snicker bar for one name. All right. Congratulations. Congratulations. That's huge. Thank you. Thank you. Ms. Carr, Dr. Carr.
I just wanted to express thanks to Mr. Herbeck that we have extended our facilities. I think we all voted for this at a previous meeting for use from our Warrior Games. So the Warrior Games have been taking place. So thank you so much for opening the facilities and our administrators who have been there and our plant operators. Because I spoke to a plant operator who was mentioning how they had met folks and they were headed over to the opening ceremony. So thank you very much for allowing us to take part in that and host folks who were training. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, I was over in Tampa at a caucus meeting Saturday at the Sheraton, and most of the people were staying there at the Sheraton, so, you know, I took pictures, selfies. But then I ran into a few of our teachers who had family members that were participating. So it was really neat. It was just awesome. So yes, thank you, Dr. Carr, for bringing that up, because that's huge. That's huge. Thank you. Wow. All right, so Dr. Corbett, you have a couple of things.
Yes, I do, Madam Chair. I have 4 things written down. First is we will work on an outcome evaluation for some of the PD that we've implemented in the transformation zone and try and make connections between each component and student outcomes. Second thing is we'll schedule a workshop or some form of discussion to talk about schools, police, and their vehicle and other equipment needs to make sure we're meeting all of their needs. Third thing is we will have a discussion with you either at a workshop or during leadership to talk about the closing out of our construction projects and how we can streamline that process and make it more efficient. And lastly, we will talk about the things that we have in place to prevent our network and our computers from being subject to cyber attacks.
Ms. Lentino didn't have her light pushed, but I think she has a comment or question.
I attended the Florida School Board Association meeting last Thursday, and it was a very encouraging meeting. There was a speaker there that instructed everybody to pay attention to what we're doing with our farming community. Hillsborough County has a very active group over there. They're raising money. They're doing many activities. A greenhouse environment. They have water running. They have every kind of thing you would imagine, but it's not on board yet. And they're waiting for having to get more money, to get more funding for this project. And the gentleman was very astute, and he was he spoke very well, and you know, he just rolled off the, you know, it was exceptional. It was exceptional. I also attended the Dells Home Park activity, and I also walked down to the Pride Parade, and I served beer to a couple of people down there. And I worked at Happy Workers on the previous Friday that I attended in that school. And it's very heartwarming, and it's always a special time that I can go to that public school, and especially to Mr. O'Hara, and to give a nod to him. So I certainly appreciate that. Thank you.
Further business, I will adjourn our meeting so that we can have our comments from the public. We will have our review of our deltas and whatnot after this. And I contacted Ms. Ann and asked, we put together a lunch menu because I didn't want anyone having to rush and try to figure lunch out. So we put together a lunch menu, and I've asked that that lunch be served upstairs so you don't have to worry about rushing and stuff, so that we can have something to eat for lunch while we're, you know, having the balance of our afternoon workshop. If I get called away, I have asked that Carol continue on with the board workshop on my behalf, if that's okay with everyone. All right. You had something? Okay. Ms. Simonetti.
Board members and Dr. Grego, we have 7 individuals signed up for general public comments. Our first 2 are Janice Metz and Judy Charmatz.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'd like to thank you for the opportunity. I am Janice Metz. I live in Clearwater. I had a daughter who has gone through the Clearwater High School, teaching at a university, and I'm tutoring several children at Largo High School, African American children.
Thank you. Just children.
But I'm here today to ask the school board when they are going to have a workshop to discuss restorative practices. I attended the April workshop, and several of the board members, Dr. Nicole Carr, Lisa Kane, and Joanne Lentino, said that they had some questions about restorative practices and its implementation. First of all, we're delighted that you have embraced restorative practices. It takes a lot of effort to get to some of the systemic problems that interfere with behavior with children that ultimately influence their achievement at school. So if we're talking about programs that have a huge impact on children and a great many children, it would be restorative practices. But we think it's critical that it be implemented correctly. And we think people need to know more about it. And we're wondering if that workshop has been set for the implementation. We talked about maybe having some of the people that had, some of the school people that had been doing the staff development to come in and explain, because we had mixed reviews about that. We have heard some schools have had very good training and some have not yet embraced it. So we need to know if that workshop is going to be set, and will you be bringing experts in from the International Institute of Restorative Practices to maybe help with the explanation and implementation over this school year at all. We would also like eventually to put this topic on the agenda for the school board workshop. And I know I see today how many very good things you have going, but restorative practices was something that you had taken on, I believe, 2 years ago. And so we would like to start to see some results or to hear about it. So thank you for this opportunity.
Next speaker, please.
Good morning. My name is Judy Sharmatz. I have a daughter, Laura, who attended the Seminole schools and is currently a teacher in math and science at Seminole Middle School. I'm here today to ask when the school board is going to have a workshop to discuss how to improve the quality of implementation of restorative justice practices in our schools. This is a great program with much potential, but there are serious problems with the implementation in many Pinellas County public schools. FAST has over 2,500 parents and grandparents who are interested in the full implementation of the program, which has proven to be very effective in many school districts around the country. The over 60 congregations of FAST were heartened in April when we heard that the school board and staff say that we need to do more to improve the implementation of restorative practices. However, since April, we have been told that there will be a workshop to discuss how to do this, but we still have yet to be told when the workshop will be held. I am asking all of you to set that date today so that you can bring in the IIRP program and come up with a plan for the next school year. School board member or Chairman Flowers, when do you plan on putting this topic on the agenda for the school board workshop? Do you have a plan on when you're going to implement it?
Typically, we don't engage back and forth when it's
Okay.
this time or session, but I will share this with you. Because it seems to be a constant conversation as though we are not implementing and that we do not have strong relationships as it relates to having a relationship with the persons who actually brought about, who were the authors and originators of restorative justice, restorative practice sessions, when in fact we have. I do know that at one board meeting, at a workshop that I was not present at, that we corrected that and the information was shared that I think it was Dr. Carr and Ms. Kane requested a workshop, and that will be scheduled. Right now, we just finished getting through graduation stuff. Today we have budget workshop. I got to make sure I'm able to pay the rest of the staff the rest of this year before the budget ends, and how we'll take care of some other things. So it will be scheduled. Okay. But I also know that FAST has been invited a number of times to the meetings that Ms. Pat Wright has in various places throughout the community. And I know that there are some individuals that may say that they don't think our RPRJ has been implemented right in schools. There are other people that say they think it has been implemented correctly above and beyond the measure. So to each his own for their opinion on that. But one thing I can say is that we have seen a decrease in the number of detentions. We've seen a decrease in the number of referrals. We've seen a decrease in the number of suspensions. And those are the guiding practices and protocols for restorative justice, restorative practice. So while it is true that we can have a conversation and dialogue, and we will do that because my colleagues has requested that for updated information, we will, as a district, continue forward with the institute that we have established a very strong relationship with. For those who may not know or may not be aware, we actually began looking into this way before we even started having committee meetings, when we had representatives come from California, and we held some sessions at the James Weldon Johnson Branch Library. We invited the community to come out because we wanted to get a flavor for the receptiveness of the program. So I do appreciate FAST. I know that you have a heart for wanting students to do their very best. You don't want to see them not learn. I'm so proud that you're tutoring the number of students that you're tutoring. I can't tell you when that date will be. I discussed my calendar or our calendars with Dr. Grego, so we will discuss it. But I will tell you today my priority is getting through the budget workshop because I need to make sure that the finances of the school district continue on so that folks can get paid and we can be ready for students back. But we are going to have that workshop again because we had individuals to request it. In the interim, you are more than welcome to attend any of the meetings that Ms. Pat Wright in her office, it's Ms. Pat Wright, Bob Puth, and Dr. Barbara Hires. You're welcome to attend any of those meetings for continual updates. And for those individuals who feel like that RJRP is not being fully vetted and invested in their schools, I would encourage them to please call me or let Ms. Pat Wright know that they feel like it's not being implemented or utilized, because that's the only way we know to try to correct the situation. But if they tell you, and then we don't know what school, we don't know who it is, we don't know, then we have no way of addressing it. But we will make sure, and Dr. Grego, whenever we have it scheduled, if we could please make sure that these young ladies are made aware so that they can attend that workshop. You're certainly welcome to attend the workshop, as you all have attended some of our workshops in the past. You're more than welcome. So we are committed, and it is.
We have received updates.
Yeah, yes, yes, we have. We receive regular updates along the way. But we want to continue moving in the right direction, and it doesn't just take curriculum or transformation zone or wraparound services or RJRP. It takes all of those things to address all of the myriad issues and complex problems that our students have that maybe we didn't have when we were in school. We didn't have to think about some of those things, but they're thinking about it, they're having to live it and do it, and so we have a responsibility to make sure that we are there for them and their families, because if we don't take care of the nuclear family, working with a student doesn't do anything. So I wanted to give you that because I respect you and I respect your representative here, and I respect the organization. But we will get it scheduled. But it's just been a lot of things on us, and we've had to take those things in advance. Not that RJRP and your request is any less, it is not. But we'll get that scheduled, and I will make sure that staff contacts you so that you can be present.
Thank you so much.
And thank you so much for being so nice and so conscientious when you come. I appreciate that.
We appreciate you.
Yes, ma'am, we appreciate you as well. And thank you all for allowing me that opportunity to share with her. I didn't want her to walk away.
Our next two speakers this morning are Mike Gandolfo and Mark Clutho.
Good morning, Madam Chair,
Good morning, sir.
board members, Dr. Grego, and staff. Leadership is second only to classroom instruction among all school-related factors that contribute to student success. Neither teachers nor principals alone can improve our schools, but a team of educators from a variety of disciplines working together under a good leader can. I understand why the district backs its principals on the many difficult decisions they have to make, and to an extent I respect that level of support. However, principals should lead their schools within a framework of collaboration and shared decision-making with educators, staff, and with their union faculty rep, who, more than anyone else in a school building, knows the pulse of what the staff is thinking and feeling. If you want to support principals, give them the knowledge they need to lead. If you want to treat them like the CEOs of their schools, then give them the HR training they need to be in charge of your greatest asset, your human resources. Good principals attract, support, and retain a high-quality teaching staff. Schools led by poor leaders lose good teachers as they neglect their obligation to develop good teachers. Teachers under these types of leaders will churn and burn after a few stressful years, and the potential to bring out the great teacher inside of them is lost forever. At a time when the teachers are in short supply and high demand, Pinellas County Schools cannot afford to back poor decisions by its school leaders. Some schools have non-renewed a disproportionate percentage of educators over the age of 40. Some schools have lost a majority of their staff to transfers. If no one wants to work for a leader, how can we justify keeping that leader in power? Administrators are forced to live in this world of zero job security. My teachers cope with it daily. However, I have seen how good leaders shield and develop staff while poor leaders place their heels deep onto the necks of their staff. Backing a leader who uses threats, intimidation, discrimination, and other unfair labor practices only reinforces that type of behavior. School leaders improve teaching and learning through their influence on staff motivation, commitment, and working conditions. I commend and I am thankful that good principals reflect the majority here in Pinellas, but when the data shows that there is an exodus of staff leaving a school, it is not because the kids are challenging. I see the same data you see, and we know where the poor leaders are, so let's not ignore it and hope it gets better. Give educators a leader that they want to follow. Thank you.
Mark Clutho, Largo. Can't believe what I just heard. Buildings around for a while. Responsible with our funds. Your funds? You mean the taxpayers' money? Buildings around for a while? They should last for a long while if built correctly. See, that's the problem. Here's the St. Pete Times, and here's the picture of Bardmore Elementary with glazing in a horizontal plane. Asinine. That's the only way you can describe it. Letting that solar radiation come into the building. You never put glazing in a horizontal plane. How many times have I told you? You people are evil. So what happens? Like I said before, CO2 level highest in human history. And this headline here, a troubling thaw. The Arctic is entering uncharted territory as it warms. U.S. climate scientists warn. Hopes of controlling emissions dim. UN says record warmth has melted oldest, thickest Arctic ice. Yeah. And then Thomas Edison would not be happy. There was a sign that was placed in all over our great-grandfather's labs that read, "There is no expedient to which a man will not go to avoid the labor of thinking." And that perfectly describes you. You will not apply the science of high-performance passive solar building. So what's happening? You're killing the planet. You people are evil. No other description fits the bill.
Our next two speakers are Corey Rodney and Guy Murray.
Good morning. I'm here on behalf of my daughter. She was assaulted at Seminole Middle School, and we've had a lot of challenges trying to get correct information, blatantly gave false information, and have been unable to get anybody to be somewhat accountable in giving us a call back as far as for the superintendent's office. I know I've spoke with Carol Cook a couple times. She has said that she has personally spoke to you, Dr. Grego, and still that was 3 or 4 weeks ago, and there's still not been a call from you. I'm still waiting for calls back from our principal, my daughter's principal at the middle school from May the 21st. I'm also still waiting for a call back from Dr. Corbett from May the 17th. I've reached out and sent emails to the school board. I've spoke with Ann at the school board reception or whatever that confirms that you guys are getting the emails. She is passing along these messages, but still there has been no response. So I guess as far as a parent, I'm looking at where the accountability is, where the responsibility is for the superintendent or the district office and the school board in which to give a call back to a parent. I don't expect you guys to be at my beck and call, but I do think since the incident happened on May the 13th, that that's plenty enough time to do this or to get accurate information. I know the one time I did speak with Dr. Corbett briefly that there was a lot of misinformation that went on. And the misinformation, according to me, that he was given, he was taken as gospel, and everything that I was saying was incorrect. So I don't know what to say other than I'm really surprised that I have to take my day off to come in front of the school board to get some type of resolution and somebody to call back from our officials. So I guess I'm not sure how the process works. You'd said, Ms. Flowers, earlier that this isn't really a go back and forth, but I am looking for someone to speak with me at some point, and I guess I'd like to know before I leave today when that would be and who that would be to help get this situation resolved.
So you actually communicated with school board member Cook? You actually talked with her about the situation, and then you wanted additional conversation regarding it. Yeah. Mr. Bob Puth, I think, is the area superintendent. Who's the area sup? And he's not here today?
Yeah. I will.
Okay, and you've talked with Bob Puth as well?
Somewhat. That was probably what indicated that. I mean, if we want to, I don't have enough time to air the dirty laundry, but I did briefly speak with him. He was very arrogant, and it was a bother that he was calling me in between meetings, he said. And, you know, when a parent, when their kid gets assaulted, doesn't want to hear from the school board that, make this quick, I've got another meeting to go to. That's how the conversation started out.
Well, Bob Puth is not here today, and I'm
Well,
not
that's
taking
why
up
I went
anybody,
up the chain to come in.
but that doesn't sound like him. So what we will do, because we don't want to call people names, so Mr. Ward Kennedy has said that he will communicate with you. He's the area superintendent there in the back, raising his hand. So if you could go back there and he can speak with you, I don't want to. Yeah, but I was just concerned because you said you hadn't talked to anyone, but Ms. Cook has spoken with you, Mr. Puth has spoken with you, and Heather Wallace has spoken with you, and a couple other people. So Mr. Kennedy is right there in the back. He can chat with you right now and see if either there can be some resolve or maybe not. I'm not sure. I don't know all the intricate details, but Mr. Kennedy.
Right, I don't know. I just don't know why that. We're still waiting on a phone call for 5 and 6 weeks
but
later.
We're solving that for you right now. If you speak to Mr. Kennedy right there in the back, we're gonna solve that for you right now.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. I will
Mr.
assure
Grego.
you that the gentleman's been called back by numerous people, but I will, if not resolve today, personally call him back because the area superintendent has wanted to take charge of this, and Mr. Poth did. And I can also attest that what was reflected in the statement was not said. And I think that's very important. I want to correct that because I did talk to Mr. Poth about the statement that he accused you of saying that I don't have time for you. He never said that. So we may have a difference of opinion, but at the end of the day, if you don't have direct resolve, whatever that is, in terms of I am familiar with your situation, Mr. Kennedy, I will call you before the end of the day then. Thank you.
Right, I guess we've been hearing that from your office for several weeks now.
No, the response was through the area superintendent. It's not from my office, and he has wanted to take ownership of this. That is one of his schools. So thank you.
I'm sorry,
if not resolved today, I will communicate with you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Kennedy is going to speak with you right now regarding your concerns or outstanding concerns so that they are hopefully resolved. And then if that can't be, then thank you, Dr. Grego, for yeah, I just didn't want negative things being said, and he's not here. Hi, I'm sorry.
Good morning to all of you. My name is Guy Murray. I'm here with Haven, and I would prefer for her to talk first.
Okay.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Haven Chrisakis. Please excuse, I've lost my voice. I'm trying to go slow and get it back. My name is Haven Chrisakis. I'm from Tarpon Springs. I have a son entering 10th grade there. I have another son that graduated last year, played football 4 years, went on to play college football. So it's my second son. For both of my children, all the way back to their great-grandparents, we've all gone to Tarpon High. We've all graduated there. Even their great-grandfather played football there. Tarpon is the second oldest football program in Pinellas County. So to say Tarpon is a community school is a small thing to say. We've got a lot of history there. I know Mr. Herbick was our principal for years. He knows how our community is. We may be loud sometimes, but we're all behind you most of the time. However, we don't feel that that's been happening lately, and we're all pretty upset at Tarpon. District Bylaw 2111.02 stresses how community and families need to be part of the program. Parents need to be full partners with educating decisions. There needs to be two-way, meaningful communication with the school, the administration, and the principal. While my path started with fighting for our football program over a year ago, I'm the football mom, we had no JV last year, and this year, I can almost promise you without a doubt, we will have no football program at all, no varsity as well. This is all coming because of the actions of our principal and what she has done over the last 3.5 years. However, as I researched football, the principal's academic agenda started to unfold. She does not communicate to the students, the parents, the community, and I sit here right now, I guarantee the majority of the student body and parents do not know what's going on. However, come August 14th, there's going to be a huge problem in Tarpon. When those kids get to school the first day and those parents realize what classes their kids are in, it's going to be a problem. Our principal sent out a flyer in their backpacks on May 16th with their proposed schedules. In it, the flyer, it said, quote, she has increased the schedule of all students into AP, pre-ACE, and ACE. That means Tarpon does not now, and I know this because I got a hold of Mr. Decatur, our academic advisor, and went back and forth with him, couldn't understand why my son couldn't be in English 2 or regular world history, because they're not offering it anymore, only over the summer. Now it's general paper ACE for English, pre-ACE biology, pre-ACE world history. I went back and forth. I couldn't understand. I couldn't believe it. How did this happen with no word to the parents except for a little slip in a backpack? How can our administration decide that all students are capable of these accelerated courses? Can I continue?
That's quick. I'm sorry, because if I let you, then I'm going to have to let others. But let the next person
Let me
to
just
speak.
say, no, he's with me.
I'm with her, so I'll just yield my time to her because I think she needs to explain to you the whole thing that's happened here at Tarpon.
I understand that, but I'm trying to make sure I follow the rules across.
I understand. Well, I'll
Okay,
just yield
let
my
me
3
just say
minutes
this.
to her.
I'm here because I've followed the right path to get to someone. I need to get to you guys. This is our last shot.
Kevin Hendricks is there in the back. Kevin, if you could please maybe speak, because Kevin is over our curriculum component piece. And I'll be honest with you, I wouldn't have an answer for you right now.
I need to yield my 3 minutes to her.
Sir, our policy does not
It
allow
doesn't
one speaker
allow-
to yield time to another.
Yeah, I was trying to be polite and
I
saying
understand
that.
that, but she hasn't been able to explain the whole.
Okay.
You know.
I do.
Finish reading her speech during your 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do understand. Mr. Kevin Hendricks will speak with you, ma'am, in the back. And sir, we're happy to hear you if you want to finish reading her speech or what have you. And then Mr. Kevin Hendricks can speak with both of you about.
Right.
Yes,
Well,
sir.
I'm not going to. So, I have two kids at Tarpon. One just graduated this year. My other son was a sophomore. I transferred him to Northside. And I think as board members, you need to ask yourselves, why are so many kids transferring? I know there's 15 parents that have either transferred their kids to a different school or in the midst of transferring their children. Obviously, I've already transferred mine. I haven't notified the school that I transferred him because I transferred him to a Northside, a private school. But this principal has her own agenda. She fired, obviously, Mr. Shank. Haven and I came and met with Al Bennett, asked him when we were meeting with him why she fired him. She would not tell us. Mr. Bennett would not tell us. I told Mr. Bennett that obviously there was 12 other schools that have offered him coaching positions. And he said he was aware of that. Northside or Northeast had wanted to hire him. So obviously, she fired him for her own agenda, her own reasons. He wasn't fired for anything that was unethical that he shouldn't have been doing. He motivated these kids. There was 12 or 13 kids that had, including my own son. He told these kids that they had to get their grades up if they wanted to have the T on their football helmet. So they got, there was quite a few kids that got their grades up. He had them involved in all different community activities. And it's just a shame what she's done. There won't be a football team there this year. And obviously, there's not just myself, but Haven and many other parents are transferring their kids. And she has her own agenda, what she's doing there, and I don't think the school board realizes what's going on.
Okay.
Yeah, and she has her own academic agenda in regards to, and Haven can explain all that better than I can what she's doing.
Okay. Well, it is correct that they couldn't tell you personnel concerns. We can't do that. But certainly could have other conversations. If you could speak to Mr. Kevin Hendricks in the back related to the academic component pieces for the change in scheduling and whatnot, I think that'll also answer some of your questions. And I can't speak to personnel issues related to why someone is no longer there or not. You could certainly speak to that person and see if he would share with you those concerns, but that I could not do. We can't speak outside of that realm. But if you could speak to Mr. Kevin Hendricks, and hopefully we can kind of see what's going on with that, with your situation.
All right.
Mr. Hendricks is right there in the back, standing up now.
Also, Rita Vasquez is there
Okay.
that could probably answer and help with the AP or ACE program change of schedule, what you face. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, for academics. And Dr. Grego, I know Mr. Al Bennett isn't here, but can you just follow up on that for us related to, because I can't, even if that same football coach isn't there, I can't see why they would not continue on with the football program. I don't know if that's to be accurate. I'm just saying if that's the
They
case.
have football, and Mr. Kennedy went out and met with
Okay.
many members of the community. So.
Okay. So they got you right there. Okay. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And thank you, parents, for coming. Appreciate you.
There are no other speakers this morning.
Okay. There are no other speakers this morning, so I just would like to leave you with a positive quote. I always try to do that, and I think, there was a point in time when persons passed away and they were like people who your parents knew or somebody else knew. Now it's people who you know and who are part of your life. So I always try to treat people the way that I would like to be treated, and I'm going to try to do a much better job at that. But this quote is from Audrey Hepburn, and it's on success. And it says, "The most important thing is to enjoy your life, to be happy. It's all that matters." Thank you all.